I am what some on the internet might describe as a Taurus apologist, but I prefer the term Taurus realist, because although I do like Taurus and I do have a fair few of their pistols, I can't really recommend them to anybody. Not because of the usual Reddit histrionics. It's not going to blow up the first time you shoot it, and it's not going to go off if you shake it. The reason I don't recommend Taurus is because they're not a good value anymore. I think Taurus makes a lot of solid guns, but the bottom fell out of the market a few years ago and Taurus hasn't been able to keep up. The Millennium G2, for example, is a decent gun, and for a long time it was a great deal at $250. But the Millennium G2 is still $250, and for a while there you could get a Smith & Wesson Shield for $250, or the Ruger 9E would go on sale for $250. Right now you can get a Ruger Security 9 for under $300. The same was true of the Taurus TCP. It was a slamming deal at around $200, but that was when the first model of the Ruger LCP was nearly $300. I bought my LCP for $170, which is as cheap or cheaper than any new TCP I've ever seen for sale. So the way I see it is this: if you have a Millennium G2 and it works and you like it, good for you. But if you're in the market for a new carry piece, well, given the choice between the new Taurus G2 Slim for $220 and the new Ruger EC9S for $220, I'm probably going to go Ruger. The quality is undeniably higher, and on the rare occasion I've had to call Ruger customer service, they've sent me free parts in the mail, shipped in under a week. If you call Taurus customer service, you'll sit on hold for 2 hours and then Francesca will tell you to fuck off. Which brings me to the new Taurus TH series, which is actually just a cosmetic refresh of the old 800 series. The 800 series pistols were good and were well liked, and they were a great value. I'm not sure if the TH series still delivers the same value. They're both hammer-fired DASA polymer-framed pistols. The 800 series was available in 9mm 40 Smith & Wesson and 45 ACP in both full-size and compact offerings. The TH series is only available in 9 and 40 so far, with both full-size and compact variants. So what does the TH9 look like out of the box? I got the full-size TH9 because it was the first to become available at my gun shop, and I like trying new things. Yeah, I know I'm paying companies for the privilege to beta test their work-in-progress garbage, but I've been a gamer for 20 years and I keep kickstarting things while drunk, so that ain't new. The TH9 comes in a hardshell case with a cool new Taurus logo on it. Inside is the pistol and some haphazardly cut foam that falls out of the case very easily. In front of the muzzle of the pistol is a piece of removable foam that suggests to me the possibility of a long slide or threaded barrel version of the TH9 that would be even longer than the full size. Color me very interested. A hammer-fired Taurus version of something like the Canik TP9 SFX would be boss. The other possibility is that Taurus might resurrect the PT-822 concept. The 822 is a 22 conversion slide with a comp that would have worked on the 809 or 840. It was one of several interesting looking products Taurus announced in the early 2010s and canceled before release. I would do licentious, borderline illegal things for a Taurus PT-2011 DT hybrid. Oh, what could have been. The case has a foam cutout for a cleaning rod, but doesn't include a cleaning rod. Thanks, Taurus. Also inside are 2 extra sizes of backstrap, a plastic loading tool, 2 17-round magazines made by Mechgar, a decent little manual, and most puzzling of all, 2 keys for the Taurus security system. Now the reason that's weird is because the Taurus TH9 does not have a Taurus security system. These little keys nominally fit an internal lock system, like the Hillary hole on current production Smith & Wesson revolvers. You can see the Taurus SS hole on the hammer of this Model 85 and the side of this Gen 3 Millennium Pro. The key fits in there, turns, and locks the gun internally. Taurus TH9 doesn't have that, and if you look in the manual you can see instructions for how to secure the gun using a cable lock, which is not included. That's pretty weird. Hopefully Taurus doesn't get sued to shit for violating the Youth Handgun Safety Act. The TH9, like the 800 series before it, is fully ambidextrous, which is a really nice feature considering you don't see that on most guns, and none even close to this price point. The TH compact guns do not have ambidextrous slide controls, though. The Ambi safety decocker can be pushed up to put the gun on safe with or without the hammer cocked, or pushed down past the fire position to decock the gun. The decocker and the slide release work perfectly from either side of the gun. The Ambi mag release is stiff out of the box, but it breaks in quickly and works fine. Magazines are drop-free, almost explosively so, and the button is easy to hit without totally changing your grip. Like with basically every Taurus made in the last 20+ years, I find this thing ridiculously ergonomic. I don't know if they just fit me or if somebody at Taurus is an ergonomic genius, but I have found all their guns since the original Millenniums to be exquisitely shaped. Just like on the old Mil Pros, the TH9 has memory pads on the side of the frame, so you know where to put your finger. I find these very helpful. On guns without memory pads, sometimes I can't even remember how to pick it up. For real though, those aren't too bad. The shape of the grip, the beaver tail, the contours of the gun, and those tasty memory pads all contribute to a gun that sits comfortably low in the hand. The full-size TH9 holds 17 rounds in the magazine, which are made by Mekgar and are super high quality, as with all Mekgar products really. The weak link here is the plastic base plates, which just aren't going to hold up as long as metal would if you're dropping mags on rocks or concrete regularly. I was pretty rough on these, shooting up in the woods and dropping mags on rocks and gravel at full speed. Predictably, they got a little chewed up, but I didn't have any magazine issues. When it comes to replacement magazines, though, Taurus has a bad habit of leaving their customers out to dry. When they're available, Taurus magazines are way too expensive, but they're almost never available. With some guns, you can find cross-compatible mags from another manufacturer. Everything I've seen indicates SIG 226 magazines work fine in the newer Millennium G2 and probably the G2C. The mags of the TH9 have been redesigned and are not the same as the ones for the 809, however they do bear a strong resemblance to Springfield XD9 magazines. It turns out if you remove some excess plastic from the XD9 mag baseplate, then they will lock and feed in the TH9. However, the different follower design doesn't activate last shot hold open. These do not work with XDM magazines, which are wider than XD9 magazines. When pressed, Taurus says TH9 magazines will be available soon. I hope so, because a good range trip requires more than 2 mags per gun. Anyway, shooting the gun. As of this writing, I have a bit over 1,100 rounds through the Taurus TH9. I'll try to dig through my notes and footage and see if I can ballpark how much from each variety of ammo. I'm happy to report that the gun has been perfectly reliable in every way. It shoots great, it's controllable, and it has never failed to feed or lock open on the last shot. It chewed through federal aluminum just fine, which is my litmus test for a gun that doesn't suck. It also worked fine with Wolf Polyformance lacquered steel case ammunition, which is even above my litmus test. I also shot a not insignificant amount of Winchester 124 grain NATO, which is some hot shit, and the TH9 ran like a top. A few of my pistols act funny with the NATO stuff, I assume due to the way extractors are designed. For example, my Magnum Research MR9 seems to run pretty ragged with +P. I'm not one of those guys who never cleans his guns and is somehow proud of being a lazy sack of crap, but I didn't clean the TH9 during the whole time I was shooting it. I took it apart, cleaned, and lubed with M Pro 7 when I first got it, but haven't bothered since then. The thing looks really dirty now, but is holding up just fine cosmetically. The internals on the TH9 are a little rough to begin with. The way the slide rails interface with the plastic frame is kinda sketchy, but it's holding up fine and hasn't caused any reliability issues. I haven't gone out of my way to be nice to this gun, but the slide finish is holding up really well. Takedown on the TH9 is quick and basic. Retract the slide a bit, pull down on the Glock-style tabs, pull the slide forward. You can do this with a hammer cocked or uncocked. Initially, I had issues with the trigger. The double-action trigger is good by double-action standards, but the single-action trigger is not great by single-action standards. The problem was that the trigger had a false reset with a very faint click before the real deal. This led to a few screw-ups on the range. After shooting for a while, I got used to it, and then after shooting even more, the false reset seems to have gone away as the trigger broke in. It's an odd issue, but I can't even replicate it on purpose anymore. The sights on the TH9 are Novak metal 3-dot sights, and they're plenty clean and on target. Good sights and a decent trigger makes the TH9 pretty easy to hit with, and the gun's weight and ergonomics makes it fast on follow-up shots. The TH9 is fairly heavy but well balanced, and the bulk of the gun's weight sits so low, recoil control is effortless with a 9mm. I loved shooting this gun. Drills, mag dumps, groups, whatever. Based on my experience, it's a phenomenal deal for under $300, as long as Taurus sells some spare magazines. I'm sure they will, but as a word of caution, they never make as many as they should, and they always stop selling them too early. So if you have a TH9, buy your magazines when you can. So the TH9 is great, but the real question is what else is competitive in the price range? If you're talking about new guns, not really anything. The Remington RP9 fits a similar niche, full-size, combat or duty-style handgun for right around $300. But it's a Remington, the only company in 2018 whose quality control is even worse than Taurus. I'm sure somebody will suggest a Conic of some flavor as an alternative, but I'll disagree with that. For one, Conic shot up in price when they got popular. What used to be a great $300 gun turned into a mediocre $400 gun. The cheapest model of Conic is the TP9SA, which is the one with a decocker button, but without a double-action trigger. That's such a bad idea, you should not reward Conic for having it. The Ruger 9E was a great alternative at about $275 before it got discontinued. It's worth noting that Ruger's value guns don't come with a spare magazine, so you can sort of adjust the price up in your head about $30. The newer Ruger Security 9 is probably a decent gun, but I just hate it. The Smith & Wesson SD9VE is just a Sigma without the tainted name attached. They have shitty triggers and nobody respects them except Yankee Marshall, which sort of speaks for itself. The TH9 is a great full-size gun for shooting range drills or cheap plinking with your normie friends who aren't gun snobs. I would personally not bother with the TH9C. If you're looking for a compact double-stack carry gun, you'd be better served by the Taurus G2C or a Smith & Wesson M&P compact if you're willing to drop more money. If you're willing to go used, your options expand significantly, and we could be here all day talking about it, so let's wrap up there. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask. Thanks for watching. See you next time.